So for a while now, I've been obsessed with a quote from Jordan Peterson.
Fire? Is fire a predator?
No.
Well,
is fire a predator? I love that question. I can't stop thinking about it. I'm fascinated by it because it seems so obvious, right? Of course not. Of course fire isn't a predator. But it stuck with me, and I couldn't help but want to explore it a little bit further.
what does it mean to want it?
The classic definition of a predator is an organism that primarily obtains food by killing or consuming other organisms, but can also refer to an entity who injures or exploits others for personal gain. And indeed, when someone says predator, a very specific image comes to mind, right? Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my.
Lions and tigers.
Bear,
Oh my. Lions and tigers.
eagle if you're a primate.
Predators are living things. Therefore, a fire cannot be a predator. Case closed. Dung dung. Well, hold on. What is a living thing? What does it mean to be alive? I mean, again, this seems pretty obvious. A puppy dog is alive and a pile of rocks is not.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
But why? Why is that obvious? It turns out the definition of life is actually pretty complicated. This reminds me of being in middle school science class, actually, because when I was a kid, we learned that life isn't one thing, it's a list of features. It's a pattern repeating itself. Things like genetic material, cellular organization, metabolism, maintaining homeostasis, growth and development, reproduction, responding to its environment, and adaptation and evolution over generations. All of these are the qualities of life. Now, plants and animals are obviously alive because they have all of these qualities. But it's not necessarily that straightforward. To emphasize how complex life is, our teacher would give us a list of examples of things that had many of the features of life that were obviously not alive themselves. Things like vacuum cleaners, tornadoes, and indeed fire all possess qualities of life, but are obviously not alive. For example, a tornado uses energy and responds to its environment. In the same way, fire consumes fuel, spreads, responds to its environment, and grows. But it's definitely not alive. Obviously, all these things lack genetic material. Genetic material is the biggest feature, really, when it comes to life. That's why Jordan Peterson gets some pushback when he's trying to prove if dragons are real or not.
The biology of a dragon, you must understand how that can be misleading.
I don't think the category of dragon is any less valid than the category of lion.
Any less biological?
They're asking about dragons in a biological sense. We're concerned with biological life.
I'm not interested in dragons. I'm interested in reality.
But biology just means the study of life. So saying biological life kind of feels like saying life. Like when you're in middle school and you have a crush on someone, like, do you like them or do you like them? Biological life is simply the only life we know about. A single cell is the smallest thing we consider life. In traditional biology, the presence of cells is the standard requirement for something to be considered alive. But cells are not life itself. Cells do things.
What do you mean, do?
Cells do all the things that are required for life, and all of the things that are required for life are what cells do. Much like how a predator is just a being exhibiting a series of behaviors, life itself is just a pattern of behaviors occurring constantly. That's the reason DNA is important, right? Because it's the building blocks of life.
A DNA strand like me is a blueprint for building a living thing.
But that's all it is, a building block. It's a blueprint. It doesn't do anything on its own. Enter viruses. A virus is basically just DNA wrapped in a protein shell. They contain genetic information, evolve, and replicate, yet many biologists don't consider them truly alive. They don't independently metabolize or maintain homeostasis. They don't grow or develop or reproduce on their own. They don't respond to their environment, and they don't adapt or evolve over generations. That's why they fall into this sort of ambiguous category. It turns out that genetic material without actually acting out the pattern is pretty worthless. It makes you wonder if human life is actually a virus after all.
Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague.
Dawkins himself points out in The Selfish Gene how our genes are just patterns that replicate through bodies. He says bodies are temporary survival machines. What persists is the informational structures.
You move to an area and you multiply, and multiply until every natural resource is consumed. And the only way you can survive is to spread to another area.
He goes further with the idea of the meme.
A meme is a virus of the mind. So it's something that spreads because it spreads because it spreads. It's something that spreads by imitation.
That makes you wonder a little bit. If a meme is a virus of the mind, is an algorithm a predator of the mind? Algorithms, especially recommendation algorithms, don't merely spread like a meme does. They hunt. Just like a lion stalking a wildebeest, algorithms are designed to target and exploit human weaknesses. And as we're experiencing now, just like with biological organisms, these kind of predatory relationships can lead to codependency. As Kevin Kelly points out in his book Out of Control, every step of coevolutionary advance winds the two antagonists more inseparably, until each is wholly dependent on the other's antagonism. And it's interesting to think about how integrated cell phones and technology are into our daily life. If you were to get rid of your phone or your computer or any device, try getting a job. Try communicating with other people. Try getting around in a general sense. Try making purchases. So much of our life is digital, I would make a strong argument that phones and technology are now necessary. The more they form these sort of hive mind digital ecosystems, I wonder what that's going to look like as we co-evolve with these technologies. Our current digital landscape feels and operates a bit like a biological ecosystem, and there are new digital predators everywhere. It would be helpful to understand how to identify them. That's why recognizing the pattern of a predator is actually pretty useful and beneficial in today's world. And I think that's why there's such an emphasis on biological life, because AI meets many of the requirements of life with a few important caveats. Human life has an innate drive. There's some ineffable quality that causes us to do what we do, that motivates us to move forward. Currently, AI lacks that. That's why most people feel like it's alive, and indeed, that's the reason AI gives for why it thinks it's not alive. But if we were to simply program in that mysterious self-motivating principle, I think AI would look a lot like life. In fact, I think it would look and feel pretty indistinguishable from life. Some will say that that quality needs to be programmed in, and therefore it's not real life, because real life just possesses that quality. But if you're religious, wouldn't you say that God programmed that quality into us? So in principle, us programming it into a computer or an AI system wouldn't really be that different. If anything, it's just kind of like a second generation of God doing it, right? Like God gave it to us, so we're just giving it to them. We are used to carbon-based life, but it's not science fiction anymore to suggest that there could be other forms of life out there. Silicone, methane, ammonia, digital. Life is complicated, and I mean that in every way possible. So is fire a predator? No, probably not. But I don't think that's the point. I think the point is that nowadays, especially, we need to understand the patterns of things more than the actual definitions themselves. We need to understand how we interact with something and how it shapes our life, and how that pattern influences us and how it influences our understanding of a particular thing. Maybe humanity discovering AI is like us discovering fire, and examining the pattern of human history can help us understand if this is going to be a new tool that we can use for our benefit, or something that will consume and destroy us. But what do you think? What are the useful patterns that we need to recognize in today's world? What kind of predators exist out there that we haven't had to deal with in our past? And is biological life the only kind of life that matters? All of these are questions I'd love to have you leave down in the comments. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you next time.